Welcome to the Awaken Your Ego podcast, where we embark on a transformative journey towards unleashing your highest potential. I'm your host, Joanne, and I'm thrilled to guide you through discussions that delve into the realms of physical, mental, and spiritual wellness.
Brenna here. Join us as we unravel the mysteries of wellness, offering insights and practical tips to enhance your overall health. From rejuvenating your body to nurturing your mind and spirit, our conversations will cover a holistic approach to well-being.
I'm one of your hosts, Ariana. Discover alternative health strategies aimed at optimizing every aspect of your life. If you're ready to embark on this journey of self-discovery and well-being, tune in, open your mind, and let's awaken your ego together. Welcome to a life-changing adventure on the Awaken Your Ego podcast.
Girl talk. It's been a while.
Let's get into it.
Welcome back.
First girl talk of the year.
Oh yeah, 2025.
Oh my god.
2025. It's been a while. Actually, our last girl talk, what did we talk about?
Is it the sexual health or like sexual
Intimacy?
Maybe we said let's talk about sex.
Oh, that maybe it was that.
Right? I think it was intimacy.
It wasn't forgiveness. It might have been
That was before.
Okay, so it's been a while. We're back, baby. 2025
Showbiz, baby.
And today we wanted to talk about femininity.
Wait, what are we talking about?
Femininity.
Femininity.
A synonym. Feminine energy and masculine energy, with obviously a focus on feminine since we are females.
Mm-hmm.
Love that for us.
Yes. Especially because Trump said there's only two genders, so we are women.
Very timely.
Gosh, wow. Joanne, we're getting political? Or let's go down that.
This is a political podcast. And I mean, he's taking some pretty strong stances right off the gate.
Yes.
It is 2025.
It is.
So how would you guys define femininity?
Good question. That's a really good question. Well, I think as I pondered this podcast too, I found it kind of difficult because I find it difficult to relax into my feminine energy a lot. So it was really a struggle. So I almost felt like not qualified to talk about it, right? Because I feel like it's something I'm still trying to master myself. But I don't know. How would you describe it, Joanne?
I would describe my femininity as my ability to be soft, especially with my daughter and my partner, which I struggle with every now and then, so I get it. But it's also like that nurturing side of me, being a natural mother, tending to someone's needs, caring for them. That's probably as far as mine goes. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Ariana?
I think to me, femininity is like one's ability to nurture, one's ability to receive. Mm-hmm. It's like, I feel like when I compare masculine, feminine, like masculine is more of like going after it, creating stability.
Focused,
not worried about feelings necessarily. It's about the doing. And this is and not a definition by any means, but in my head, this is kind of how it plays out. And femininity is more so like the opposite of like the ability to receive, create a home, take care of others, like see outside of yourself. I feel like it's not just about one task. It's about more of like creating an energy overall, like a
more
vibe.
Big picture. Mm-hmm. No, I agree. And I think when I think of like women, right, like gatherers and hunter-gatherer communities, right? It's like, I think it's more of like the community as a whole, like caregiving for your community, not just yourself or your spouse.
Women want to have a community to like work with and lean on and glean info from.
And I think that's my favorite thing about being a woman is just the community of women, especially like where we work with mostly women. And I really enjoy the female community friendships I have because it is more like we talk about everything. everything. Like it is, I love that the way we chisme, the way we, talk about what's going on, the way we complain about whatever.
Or
like
advice with kids. I feel like, or relationships. I feel
like it gets deep pretty easily. And obviously like we have friendships, but it is like nice. I think that's what I love most about being a woman is like that community that you can build with other women. And especially like, even when you have a kid, like it's so, you're like, what the heck am I doing? And coming to work and being like, oh, my kid's not sleeping. And I have like 5 different women telling me like, oh, you can try this. Maybe you should try this. Have you tried giving them this? I think that is like the most beautiful part of female friendship. But like, also I think that is like a feminine trait.
like vulnerability and being open.
And sharing. And then I also think it is like when you're in touch with your intuition and your emotions. And I think that's the part where I struggle with is like, because I felt growing up like emotions were weakness or seen whatever
respected or validated.
Yes, it wasn't respected, but it's like I feel most in my feminine energy when I can like flow with my emotions instead of resisting them. And it's like seeing that actually is like a really beautiful part of being a woman is like having that emotional intelligence and like feeling with them and feeling the energy of your kids of like, oh, this is kind of what they need, or feeling the energy of a room like, ooh, we need to shift this feels weird. I think that's kind of a feminine trait.
Yeah, 100%.
And what are things that you feel like shape your view of femininity or your ability to show that in life? Like, where do we get this view of what femininity is?
I think we have to choose it for ourselves. I think
your first example, obviously, is your mother and your household and your kind of
your childhood
programmed, but and the women that your family is friends with and interact with, or your church, or I feel like there's a lot of things that honestly, the pressures of society of what being a woman means and what's expected. I feel like there's a lot that goes into it.
Well, it's kind of like that meme or that like video I sent you. It was just like, I forget who it was, Trevor Kennedy or something. It was like funny of like, oh, I think I'm going to stay home with my kids. And everyone's like, oh, you stupid mom, you're not going to work. Like you're not and then it was like, oh, I think I'm going to go back to work. And then it's like,
what is it about your kids? You don't even love them.
Yes. And so I think it's like we all have to decide what it means to ourselves to be in touch with that feminine energy.
Because everyone's going to have an opinion, regardless of what the choice is. There's going to be people, naysayers out there.
Exactly. So I think I think those are qualities, but I think deciding like how you flow within that energy, I think you kind of have to choose that for like what makes sense for you.
Yeah.
Well, and I think as, you grow older, it's like you have to decipher, what am I doing because I think I'm supposed to, and what am I doing because I want to, and I know this feels right and this is good for me and my family.
Yes.
I feel like everyone, with most things, you have to kind of come to that fork in the road of like, okay, this is how mom and dad did it and society makes me feel like I should. Where's my happy medium, you know?
That grown woman femininity. And it's different where it's like, it is like comfortable. It is easy. I think that's what I'm trying to attain, of like this ease with it and not this like kind of, because I feel like I often push my emotions away and it's like feeling in touch with them is hard. I wish I could do that on a more regular basis.
But where do women get taught to push them away? Like where in your life, and even, like where are times where you feel like someone's like, okay, yeah, but keep going. Like, I don't care that you have feelings. Because I feel like that's a common thing with women I meet is like that suppression. They're used to suppression
of self, right?
Yeah.
And their needs even.
For me, it was my mom. She was very much, I know she was very emotional, but she knew how to just block them. And it kind of ingrained in us. It was like, because she was a single mom, so she thrived on that title. But it was very much like emotions make you weak. You don't let anyone see you cry. And especially a man. Like she was very much a man hater. And it's unfortunate, but it got worse as she got older. But there's always that piece of me where I feel emotions coming up and I feel the need to stuff it. Like that thought comes in my mind, like, oh great, I'm turning into my mother. But luckily I know now how to just let them flourish, because I am very much an emotional person. And especially now I'm very emotional just lately. So yeah, I feel like there's always like that, my mom's voice, or just in general being a Latin woman, that Latin culture.
And it's like when you're raised with that vibe, it makes you almost feel shameful when you have a feeling. Because I feel like I grew up in a big family, a lot of stuff going on, and it just felt like there wasn't time for my emotions. It didn't matter. It was like, what's the greater good? Keep going. Like, we need help with that. And so I think it really taught me just like keep those down. It doesn't matter. And so I think for me, when I start to have feelings and I'm trying to honor them and like decipher what exactly I'm feeling and upset with or need to change, it's hard because I almost feel like a resemblance of shame. Like, why aren't you just happy? Why aren't you content with what's going on? Like, why can't you just keep going? This is a waste of time. Like, it feels like a waste of time.
It's like the busy lifestyle now. Like, everything is moving really fast. Like, sometimes there's no time for you to feel your emotions. You just got to get shit done.
Yeah. And that's where I struggle even with my kids, because I feel like, you know, and I get like my mom having so many kids, like, yeah, girl, you got to keep things moving. Like, we don't have time. And I struggle that with even my daughter sometimes. It's just like, we got to get out of the house. Like, I know you're nervous about school and that's sad for you, but like, girl, get your shoes on. We're still going. So I think I struggle with that even too, of just like taking a moment, and I try and like, okay, let's have a hug. Let's have a deep breath. We're going to be okay. School's fine. But get your shoes on, get in the car. Let's go. Like, it is.
I'm raising a daughter in 2025, right? I feel like it's like walking that balance between trying to help them be in tune with their emotions, but also helping to breed a strong, independent woman.
Yes.
You know, I feel like that is like a hard...
it's a hard line to walk. Yeah. And I struggle with it. Like, am I being too harsh? Am I not validating what their, you know, experience? But it is like a weird balance. And I think it's kind of life. Like, there are moments where you have to exist in your masculine. And it's not a bad thing. Like, I think a lot of the qualities you described of like what you feel is masculine is like being focused, having a goal, like not letting things stop you, like pushing through. Like, those are all like beautiful qualities that I think are great and needed, and especially like single moms out there. It's like, there's times you got to keep things moving. But how do we relax into that feminine too? Like, there needs to be that yin and yang.
Well, I think what frustrates me is how sometimes we like to villainize one and like victimize the other aspect of self, where it's like both exist, they're alive, they're well. Why is it necessarily a negative thing if I am more masculine, or a negative thing if I'm more my feminine and I need someone to help me all the time? It's like, why is one better than the other? And I feel like it's coming to terms with like both are necessary and deserve respect, deserve notice. They're all a part of you. So it's like allowing ourselves to not villainize one aspect or the other, and realizing if we have like certain feelings when it comes to women or men, it's like figuring out where that came from. Because I feel like I have some preconceived notions about how men are and how women are based on how I was raised, my programming. It's like you develop these opinions just even subconscious. And so I think for me, anytime I judge like masculine or femininity at large, I'm like, hold on, there's more here. Where did that judgment come from even? And is that truly what I think?
And I think the older I get, the more I realize I have a lot of healing to do, even with how I feel towards men, or like there is definitely like a man wound there, like how you feel towards men and even allowing them to exist in their feminine energy. Do you guys feel like you allow your partners, or how do you feel like you react when your partners are in their feminine energy?
Not PC answer, be honest.
No, I do appreciate it. And if anything, when he is, it teaches me a lot about myself, of like, oh, okay, like, I know, and I am being honest, but I do respect him when he is in a feminine, I mean, he is masculine, but, you know, I appreciate that he does understand emotions, and if I am being emotional, he creates that space for me. So same thing of when he wants to express emotions, and he's gotten better about how he expresses them. Before it was just like emotional overload, and I'm like, hey,
these are a
matters how you say it. So, but he also kind of checks me too. It's like, hey, I listen to you, please listen to me. And so it's like, okay. So I do honor it, and I'm not used to men in my life being emotionally expressive and emotionally intelligent. I'm used to that machismo attitude where they just don't want to talk about it and they shut you down. So it's kind of like, this is what I ask for, so now I'm getting it. So like learn how to handle it and receive it and create that space for him too.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's been a learning curve for me, but I do appreciate it.
Yeah.
And I welcome it.
I think that's like probably one of the qualities I really liked about my partner, is that I feel like he wasn't afraid to exist in his feminine sometimes. Like, he has a lot of like hobbies and things that he's interested in that would be seen as feminine, but like I love that he just like does not care. Like he went to fashion school for a couple of years and thought he was going to make, and like snowboard.
He's weirdly talented at a lot of stuff.
He's very creative.
Very creative.
But I really loved his like creative side, and he's a really great cook. Like he really, and it's more of like a creative hobby for him than like when me, I need like a recipe, I need instructions, I need to know exactly what I'm doing. But to him, he's like, maybe it needs this or maybe it needs that.
He's
and I'm
ratatouille straight up.
He's ratatouille. But I love that. I think I was attracted to him because it wasn't like, oh, I'm this alpha. It was like because he was like a little more comfortable in that space, and it wasn't seen as like a bad, like he wasn't like, pretending to be something he wasn't. So I think I liked that about him when I met him. But yeah, I don't know. What are you, Anna?
I definitely present more masculine, I think, in my natural state, right? So I think for me, my struggle has been like my partner he has a lot of emotions and feelings and wants to share those with me, wants to be vulnerable. And I feel like there have been points in our relationship where I found that like disgusting, like detestable. Like I don't want to.
It's a strong word. But I get what you're saying. I get what you're saying.
It really was like, what are you doing? Like I think at first in our dynamic, I'm like, why do you get to be broken down and show your emotions and be a mess and crying, and I don't do that? It's like I have taught myself not to do that. So I think for me, it was almost like offensive at first when he was trying to be open and vulnerable and share. I'm like, okay, and pick it up, let's go. It's like I kept the train rolling. Yeah. But I wasn't honoring, I guess, that beautiful vulnerability that he was trying to present to me. Instead, I was judging it, and it felt like it shouldn't be allowed. And it's like, wait, I'm supposed to be the one that gets to act like this, not you. It's
so
like
you're a misogynist.
Yes, I had these preconceived notions on like what I as a woman and a wife should be able to do and what he as a man should be doing.
Yes, like those gender kind of roles.
And so I feel like we've worked through that a lot, and I realized it was my judgment of men's capability and awareness and emotional intelligence that I was like putting on him and trying to not allow, honestly. So I think for me, if anything, I do like it because it challenges me and it makes me want to dive into why is this triggering me? Like, why is this making me feel uncomfortable?
And it kind of pulls you into that space too.
It pulls me into a more feminine, like in touch with my feelings thing too, which is what I need. So he's like the yin to my yang for sure.
And I think we all have some internalized misogyny. Like, I mean, you know, like men and women, not just men. Like, I think we see men like, oh, they don't respect women, but it's like, we also don't respect women either. Or we don't respect our like feelings and that kind of like feminine emotion. So it's like,
oh, I found it pathetic. No, I was like, ugh, like, that girl's a mess. Like she is crying and crying. And it's like, what? We all have feelings. It's okay to cry sometimes. I think, but I used to judge it so harsh, and I wouldn't allow myself. And then I finally got to a point where I realized, like, Ariana, you have feelings too. You have times you want to cry. You have things you want to express, and you want to be seen and known. It's like, I think my inability to receive love and softness and affection also made it hard for me to give it to, you know, and that's unfortunate for my husband too, because he didn't receive that softness that I could have offered him.
Yes.
It just wasn't there to give.
I struggle with the softness too. I think sometimes where it's like, why didn't you put this shit away? Or like,
like just harsh. Yeah.
It's like, hey, like, okay, let's do this. It's like very business sometimes at home. I think with like kids and work, and it's like very easy to stay in that mode of like checking these boxes.
You do this.
You do that. I do this. Like keep it moving. We keep this train rolling. And it's like, that is also not a harmonious space that like either of us likes to exist in
or can feel fulfilled in.
Yes. And so I think it is hard to kind of, you know, fall back into that like flow of femininity, I guess.
Yeah. See, the softness comes easy for me to give, but it is the receiving part of it. For me, it's
trust it.
I think it's more of the verbal stuff, like the compliments. And he likes to compliment me all the time, but sometimes I'm like, okay, shush, like just. But he'll always tell me, like, why does that make you so uncomfortable?
Yeah.
Why don't you let anyone praise you?
Where did it come from?
Well, my childhood. But
I'm saying, was it like a lack? You didn't believe he meant it, or did you think you owed him, or what?
Yeah.
What did it create in your mind?
It is like I don't believe him, but it has a lot to do with me believing that about myself, which is something that I'm working on right now. But I feel like that's where my hang up is with being in my feminine, is to receive. I kind of like stop him because it's like, no, I can just do it myself.
Yeah.
You know, he's like, let me help you. Even if it's like the smallest shit.
Yes.
Well, I got it.
Well, and how do you, I guess that's an interesting concept because I think a lot of women struggle with that. It's like, we find pride in being hyper independent. We're praised for it even. Like, look at you, you're doing it all. Like, that's awesome. It's
I
like
can
outside.
do it all.
Yeah.
And you feel like, I don't need anyone. I'm alone. I'm a lone wolf. I got this.
Yeah.
Yes.
So it's hard because there is that pride that kind of comes with like doing it. Like when your kid goes to the bathroom by themselves for the first time, they're stoked, but then ultimately they still want a little help. Like they're still unsure if they can want to consistently do this moving forward.
Yeah.
I feel like sometimes my issue, I think, with receiving and with compliments, and I'm always like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Like I always assumed you're up to something, you're trying to get something from me, instead of just letting it stand. Like, no, he's just trying to shower.
We
you with
were
love.
talking about that. Not like it's like compliments. How even sometimes they're hard as a woman. Like, oh, you're so beautiful, and it's like, yeah, I know. Not that it's like I'm this like, oh yeah, I know, duh. But it's like you're trying to get some. And I
Why
think
you fluffing me up?
yeah, and I think it comes from even like we know why. But I do think it even from like high school. It's like growing up, like don't dress so men are looking at you this because you kind of do have to protect yourself in a certain way. Like I remember feeling frustrated with like my mom trying to make me dress modestly growing up, but now I get it. It was like she was trying to help me like respect myself with my body, but there was always these messages of like,
it's your fault.
It's your fault. If you're too sexy, then you're attracted. Like she's asking for it. And so it's hard to receive compliments sometimes of like, oh, you're so beautiful. And it's like, instead of just like accepting it and like, oh, like he thinks I'm beautiful too. That's nice. Like, I think that is hard for women. Like I agree. Like it is just kind of one of those things. It's like, and you were saying like kind of how you want to be complimented and other things like your intelligence or your,
like how I nurture your kids, or like things that are concrete and things that he sees that maybe other people don't get to see at work or in society. It's like, honor those things too.
Yeah.
I'm like, that means a lot more to me than, oh, you look really nice today or whatever. I find you attractive. It's like, okay. Anyone on the street could have said that to me, but my husband, I want him to know me and to like appreciate the value that I'm bringing to the table.
Yeah. You want to be known.
I want to be known.
And maybe that's just like the difference between men and women, where they're very visual.
That's fair.
Yeah.
Dang girl, those hips.
When I bet
highest compliment.
When I bet a man would love to just receive physical,
For sure. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
That's true.
But I feel like even situations, programming, religion, I feel like that all also affects how we accept those verbal comments. Like you said, like we overthink it or we think they're wanting something. It's like, I feel like we're also kind of set up to not trust it.
And that's when I was kind of thinking on this, where I think it is like when I think one of those traits of femininity is like feeling comfortable in your own skin and so strongly in your own intuition and like knowing who you are. And so that way, yes, you can receive those compliments with ease of like, yeah, thank you. Like I like that. And I think a lot of the women that I really respect are women who really are confident in themselves and then aren't trying to please anyone else, but also like are really strong in their own intuition of like, no, I feel strongly about this. This is what we're doing. This is a choice I made for the group. Like, and I think those are the women that I really respect, that it's like, oh, they feel so secure in their path. Where it feels safe. And I think it's kind of like what you're saying is like creating a safe space for your partner to even exist in their emotions or whatever, or like for friends even, it's like a place of safety.
Yeah.
Well, and here's a good question for you guys, and I'm curious, is like, knowing that you guys are both leaders and you have a lot of masculine and feminine power and you hold both, it's like, how do you handle that ebb and flow of like leading and following? Like letting your husband or your partner feel like a man and like have his thing, but also at times maybe you're leading. It's like, how do you find that balance of when to receive and when to just push things forward?
So I told him from the get-go, because I was a single mom for so long, I told him, I don't want to lead. I want to be in that feminine. I want to just follow along, like, you please take the head role and I will take care of everything else. So he knew that from the start. And he's
so you talked about it right up.
Yeah, he's like, fine with me, because it's like, I don't want to decide what we're gonna eat. I don't want to decide. Like, you just do that. And he did. He would just be like, you hungry? Yes, we're going here. Great.
Love that.
I'll get ready. I'll get Kendall. Let's do it. So I think that we work very well with that, especially with I mean, there are some things where he'll ask me my opinion. What do I think? And if I absolutely disagree, I will tell him no. But it's not like, like a bratty no. Like, we'll talk about it and things like that. But I did tell him, I want to take care, I want to grow in my feminine because I've been in my masculine too long. And so he understood that about me. And so we find that flow pretty easy. It's just like my ability to receive compliments and certain things from him. Like, sometimes he does tell me, like, can you let me provide? Can you let me, you can just chill and let me, like, take over.
I like that, though, because he's owning that role of, like, hold on, you're in my territory. Like, let me do
like,
this.
he'll tell me, you're not a single mom anymore. And I'm like, I know, but, I'm still functioning that way. So it's ebbs and flows. Push and pull.
Yeah. No, I love that. And I think it's like, too, like you said, it's like you knew what you were looking for. Like, you're like, okay, I can be a mom and dad. I've done it, right, in some kind of form, but it's like, you don't want that.
Yeah.
Like, you were like, I know what I'm looking for. Like, I want someone that kind of matches that energy, too.
Yeah.
So I think you had a clear...
No BS. This is what it is.
This is what it is. Man, that's hard. How do I think for me...
Or I guess maybe in what ways do you allow him to lead? Because I feel like there's certain things in our relationship where I'm like, oh, Cody has it. Like, I think in his expertise, things that I feel like he knows more, he's more of the expert in a certain realm. I'm like, I let him take the reins. Like, that's yours.
Yeah.
But I think what's hard for me is, like, I want to always have my cake and eat it too. It's like, I want to be able to freaking lead and tell you what's up sometimes. But also I want to be able to have those times where I defer to you and you get to lead.
Yeah.
It's like, I want both. And I think that's where it gets hard for him to switch and to match where I'm at. Because maybe when I want to be led, he also does too. And it's like when we're both in that way, it gets hard. Or when we're both very strong and wanting to, like, carve out a path and something's really passionate and important to us, it's hard to defer, you know?
Yeah.
So we have two chiefs for sure.
And that, I agree. And I think especially, like, both people working and, like, coming home and, like, we work similar hours. Like, we both are tired when we come home. Like, it can be hard for us. Like, and we both will cook dinner sometimes. Like, we'll switch off on those nights. Like, one of us is cleaning, one of us is cooking, one of us is dealing with the kids. So it definitely can be hard for us to both kind of snap out of that mode. And how I let him lead. I mean, there's probably... I think, like, I really value with our kids, because sometimes I feel like I'm doing too much. And I think he'll be like, you don't need to do all that. Like, they can dress themselves. And I'm like, oh, you're right. Like, I actually need him to, like, pull me away from, like, doing too much.
Well, from the self-sacrifice that you're trying
the self-sacrifice of the martyrdom of motherhood, right? And, like, I actually really value when he's like, no, and it's, like, important to their development. And even when he feels the need to, like, discipline them in a way that's different than me, I'm a little, like, more like, why say no when I can say yes? And, like, he's like, no, like, it's no. Like, he is, like, sometimes with the kids, and I'm like, oh, I need you to be this person, because I have a hard time being that person of, like, telling my kids no, or letting them, I am sometimes stalling their own development by not letting them get themselves dressed in the morning. Or
well, and there is something so attractive, and I think whether it's a man or a woman, like, when you feel so strongly in what you're promoting, and you're also, like, taking action to have it happen. For instance, I think hearing my husband discipline my kids, it's hard. Like, we grew up different. His parents spoke to him different than mine did. Mine were a lot more hands off. His were a lot more micromanaging and looking at every move. So it's like finding a balance with even our parenting style is hard.
Yeah.
I'm like, don't sweat the small stuff. And he's like, the small stuff is all super important. I'm like, gosh. So I think it's like, at one point, because my son's getting older, he's like 11, and he was like, Ariana, like, sometimes you need to let me raise a man. And I'm like, okay, I don't get what you're meaning by all that, but I can defer to you. I don't know what it means to be a man. Like, I need to allow you to communicate with him and figure out that dynamic and honor that. I think I would always try to interject or save my baby. And, like, I just wanted to be a part of it all the time, instead of trusting that, no, like, he's going to help raise him in a different way. I need to honor the way I'm trying to raise him and things I'm implementing. And they're both important. But it's just, that was very attractive, because he's like, I got this, back up. Like, you don't know, like, I know something that you're not looking at. And I think that feels really good when you have a partner that's like, I got it. Go take a walk. You're freaking out. Like, like being able to hold space and hold it down while you're like taking a minute to get balanced and come back.
That is like my love language, is like someone seeing me doing too much and being like, girl, take a break.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, like stopping me when I'm kind of in that, even if it is my hyper masculine of like, I got this, like we're
When you're a tornado of productiveness, you're like, I got to keep going.
And him allowing me to take a break. Not that he's allowing me, but it's like sometimes I need someone
he's
to
giving you the opportunity.
The opportunity.
Yes.
And that's like actually when I feel really loved and like, or, you know, when, that is like how I feel loved, is like when someone allows me to kind of exist in my feminine. And I think that's where I really appreciate what my husband is like, girl.
Well, I think
chill
about
out.
in that example, it shows he's looking at you. He's aware that your energy's off. His intuition is telling him like, hey, hold it down for your woman so she can figure this out. It's like, I feel like that shows a lot. Even in that one example, it's like he's confident enough to take on that more effeminate role for a minute in whatever way that is, to let you go be
relax
on your own.
or like be able to receive a break.
Yeah.
And so I think that is where I feel loved. At least it's like when someone sees me like, and it also sees me for all the work I'm doing too. Like it's like they appreciate it. It's like, yeah, you're doing a lot. You don't need to do all that much.
Yeah, I'm learning to let Patrick lead with Kendall too, because I mean it's not her father biologically, but more and more lately, you know, I tell Kendall, please do this, telling her 3 times. She doesn't do it, and then he'll just back up and be like, your mom told you 3 times. Like, you need to do it, I'm going to take this away. And she's like, okay. And sometimes I feel like, oh my gosh, you know, like is he being too strict? And we're like, no. She listened to him. She didn't listen to me. And I feel like that's where my femininity can go wrong in some ways, is because, you know, I'm doing all her shit for her. I'm putting her clothes away. I'm picking up all her messes. And he'll tell me, like, she can do that.
Yeah.
She's big enough. She needs to learn how to do hard things.
Yes.
And I'm like, you're right, but I'm mom. I want to baby my cub. And I feel like that's kind of what I'm trying to learn too, is like, and he'll always say, like, is that okay that I said that? And I said, yes, I know that it's a good thing.
Yeah.
I'm just
having a hard time,
but it's not a bad thing at all.
And navigating those waters as a step parent, I imagine is very difficult. Like coming to a home where you guys have your own dynamics.
When he's coming in at halftime.
Yeah.
But, you know, Kendall does receive it well. She likes to pretend she's a cat. She'll meow and, you know, do all the cat things. And so whatever he'll tell her, she'll like make this meow, like this weird cat.
You're kidding.
I'm not.
Meow. Hello Kitty's hot right now.
Yeah.
Hello Kitty's
She'll
hot.
go and do it, but what I love, and he always tells me too, she'll always come back to him and start nibbling on him.
Wait.
And like, you know, she'll pretend to nibble on you.
Oh, okay.
It's her
So
thing.
it is a real thing.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's like
cat thing.
play
I
thing.
get it.
But it's
Playful.
her way of showing him affection.
Yes.
And it's also, you know, her way of, you know, trying to get reassurance. Like, hey, are you mad at me? You know, he'll cuddle her and play with her.
Well, it's
So,
like
like,
testing the waters. So like, is it okay to be playful?
yeah. So they're building their relationship. So I see, like, no, he is dad. When she's with us, he is dad, and she's allowing
They have
him
a
to be
different
in that role
relationship.
too. Yeah.
That's cool.
So it's reassuring for me too. It's like, no, they make their peace. And
I
he,
love
you
that.
know,
She nibbles on them. It's so funny.
it's funny when she's like making biscuits on you, like that kneading,
Like a real cat.
She'll purr with me.
Her last life was a cat.
Yeah,
Okay, give her a
I just
minute.
like, you're not identifying as a cat. You can play as a cat, whatever, but you're a girl.
Yes. Let's
not get crazy here.
Fun
fact.
That is really cute,
Well, it's
though.
funny 'cause I feel like with my son, he's very playful, jokey, and he knows if he can make me laugh, I calm down. It's just like, I love my son so much. But I think with Cody, sometimes it makes him upset because I'll have a very serious discussion, and then Dee will kind of try to be silly or like do something funny, and then it kind of breaks the ice and we're cool.
Yeah.
And I think to Cody, that's like, well, why are you just being playful? Like, he needs to take this seriously. Like, he wants to make him think about it. I'm like, well, that's not how I learn. Like, I feel like I trust that my son's intelligent enough to hear what I'm saying. And I could see that's his mechanism to be like, am I still safe? Do you still love me? Like, is there still closeness? I'm like, it doesn't mean he's not respecting the lesson or that he doesn't get it.
Yeah.
It's his mechanism of like, we cool?
Yes.
Yeah.
Because I'm his life source. It's like I feed him. It's like as your parents are important. You gotta kind of.
He's the Rizzler, dude. He's got Riz.
He does have some weird Riz.
I feel like there are times where I'm like, you little shit. Like, he's so funny. Like, it's hard to not laugh. Like, Like, he'll make little jokes. Like, that was really funny, but I'm not supposed to laugh right now because you're kind of in trouble. But
he's so witty. It's fun. I'm like, dude, that's going to get him far. And I tell that to Cody all the time. I'm like, at the end of the day, he's cute. He's silly. It's going to help him make friends and get far in life eventually, I'm sure.
Eventually, we all learn our ways.
It's so hard as a parent. Like, when you want to laugh and you're trying not to.
Or it's inappropriate.
Yeah. I just turn away. I'm like I need to.
Or if it was like a good comeback, like when my girls were fighting, I'm like, that's actually really funny. But no, that's not okay. We don't
But
do
you
that.
know what's way more awkward is like when you see one of your kids punk the other kid.
Yes.
And you're like, dang, that was a good one. You're like, dang, like that hit. And I have to walk away because I literally will audibly giggle or laugh, and then it offends the person that was offended.
Me and the girls were at like Dollar Tree or something, and they were kind of like poking at each other, and I'm like, let's get at it. I'm like trying to get to the store as fast as possible. I'm like, okay, like and as I open the door for them, and Sage just pushes Jude out the door, and there's like, I was holding the door open for them, and there's people walking in, and Sage just shoves her, but like
intensely,
like so hard, but it was also like kind of funny because it was it wasn't funny, but it was funny, and the ladies were looking, were like, oh my god, I was like, you guys, and I was like, you stop pushing each other, and the ladies were kind of laughing because it was like a funny push.
They're like, I get it.
But yeah, it's hard sometimes.
It's hard being a parent, I think.
So yeah, I mean, back to femininity, right? I think it's like, and then one of the things we kind of talked about is like, are you projecting your energy onto your child of what you think femininity and healthy masculinity is? And I think for sure, yeah, right? In some version of that. I think that's where I really need to keep that in check of like, because we're very much like a girl power house because we're all girls. And then my husband, and we were talking about this, Ariana's son comes over and her daughter come over. It's 3 versus 1. And we don't have boys in the house really other than their dad, but it's like, no, we don't treat boys bad because they're boys.
Yeah.
And like, I love that we're like girl power all the time. Like girls are so great. Boys rule, girls rule. But, it's also like teaching them healthy masculinity. Like we know we respect boys. Yeah. They are people too. Like they are just as important, but I feel like I have to keep that in check of how, and that comes from my own feelings of what healthy masculinity and femininity is.
Yeah.
Well, I think that kind of drives me to keep figuring out like my programming, where it came from, why I operate in the way I do. And I want to know all the intricacies of that because I know I'm currently programming my kids in a certain way of how they view things, the example I'm setting and what that means for them personally. And I think raising a daughter felt very terrifying for me because my mom is very emotionally unavailable. And I feel like being raised, I always felt like she was just, and I get it. She had a lot going on. There was a lot of kids, everything, but I didn't feel emotionally safe or attached. And so I think I was really scared with having a daughter. I'm like, oh, I don't want to make her feel that way. I just was worried about what that dynamic would look like.
And I think a lot of women fear that with daughters. I've heard it from a lot of friends that are like, oh, I'm just so scared. And I'm like, it's the best ever. I love it so much. But I think that's like a common experience for a lot of women.
Yeah. Well, and when she was little, I mean, obviously when every kid is little, they're emotional or they get upset. And I feel like it would offend me in a different way than it would when my son was like that. And I'm like, okay, we got to clean this up because that's not right. Like, why is it like, stop doing that when she's doing it, and when he's doing it, it's like, oh, come here. It's like, I want to coddle him. And with her, I'm like, no, women, you got to be stronger than this. It's like I have a different expectation of her than I do of him. And so it made me want to dive into like male, female, like judgments and thoughts because I know they're there.
Yeah.
But I like using intuition and checking myself of like, okay, this is triggering you. What's going on? Let's clean this up so you're not feeling this way.
Yeah.
Well, and as a mom, though, it's like also, it's hard. I get it too, though, because it's like you're trying to prepare your girls for a man's world we live in. So I do feel like there's this different sense of like, yeah, we got to keep this in check. Like we got to, so it is a hard line to walk too of like, yeah, we do live in a world that is tough, that you do need to protect yourself. You do need to feel sure in yourself.
When there's times to be strong and hold your ground, and there's times to receive and allow and be vulnerable. It's like, both are going to be necessary no matter what is going on in the world, you know.
So I think my daughter is too far into receiving. She's an only child, mind you, and like I am
deep
very
in the receiving game.
I am very soft with her, which is funny because it's like, what is my parenting style with my daughter? I'm very much feminine because I will touch her and caress her and like try to give her besitos, I tell her. And she'll receive it, but she's just so like cutthroat with me sometimes. Just like, no, you got to try harder. Mm-hmm. But then when
she's a cat.
Yeah.
She makes you work for
Very
it.
hard cat energy.
But when I am masculine with her and I'm straightforward, she's like, you're being rude. Like, why are you so mean? And I'm like, no matter which way I go, it's I don't know. So that's why I appreciate when Patrick comes in and he's firm, because she will listen to him. But I was listening to the podcast that Dr. Amen was on, and he was saying, like, we're raising weak children when we do everything for them. And it's just to, feed our own self-esteem.
Our own guilt.
They need to learn how to do the hard things. And that's what Patrick keeps telling me is, like, she gives up when something is too hard. Yeah. And mind you, she's very stubborn, like very particular. If she's drawing something, which she's a great little artist, but if she messes up, she'll just scribble it, get pissed, and then throw it, and she's like done. Yeah. And it's like, no, you can keep going.
Like, you can keep getting better at this.
Yeah, keep getting better, practice, or, go clean your room. Ugh, what? It's so hard. Yeah. I hate school. It's like, that's not even that hard. Mm-hmm. Like, the world is so much more complicated and challenging than this. And as much as I want to just do things for her, whether because I want to or I just don't want to deal with her. Yes. It's like, I have to tell myself she needs to do hard things. Because as it is, she's an only child, low-key spoiled.
Which is okay.
Yeah. I was a single mom for a long time, okay?
I'm doing my best.
But it's true, and I realize this now. I'm like, she's 9 years old. Like, when I was her age, I was helping my mom cook, doing laundry, cleaning toilets, mopping, cleaning the whole house, because there was like 6 kids. Yeah. And she made us all do something. So I'm like, I didn't want to put all that pressure on my daughter, but at the same time, I'm not helping her flourish. Yes. I'm not giving her self-esteem by learning how to accomplish a difficult task.
Yes. Well, and that's where I feel really grateful to my experience growing up and my mom. It's like, we were really independent kids. Like, we were doing our own laundry. Mm-hmm. Like, we were cooking for ourselves, like, if we were hungry. So it's almost like I really am appreciative to kind of that laissez-faire parenting too, because I think I'm so proud of myself in a lot of ways, because I can do a lot of things independently. But yeah, so it's a hard balance, and I think you're right. It's like raising tough kids that don't give up when something's hard. Yeah. It's funny, the difference between my kids when, like, my first and my second. I feel like the first, obviously, it's like, I spent a lot more time trying to, like, in patience, and then, teaching her things. And then the second, you have 2 kids then. I'm a mom of 2 kids now. So a lot of times I'm like, I'll just do this for you. Like, all right, we're going. And it's funny. And part of it's personality type too, right? But I take them snowboarding, and my first, like, part of it's natural. Like, she picked it up really easily as a child. She's fearless. She's fearless. Her balance is great. Like, she just is kind of like an adrenaline kid too. Like, she gets it. But snowboarding, when she'll fall, she gets right back up. Like, she doesn't sit in the ground and cry. She, like, doesn't. One, I don't think she wants people to see her cry, but which, whatever, that's probably the problem. But she'll get right back up and keep going. It's like, she has this, like, when she's doing activity, she's like, no, and she enjoys it. If it's not something she enjoys, it's a different story. But it's like, she likes it, so she will keep going and, like, get right back up, pop up. She won't. And then my second, teaching her to snowboard, is painful in a lot of ways, because she will lay down. She's doing, like, sitting there, like, she waits for me to come pick her up, and I'm like, girl, please. And it's like, I want to just be like, all right, let's get up. Like, I want to pick her up because it's painful to, like, sit there with the patients. But she's stubborn too. Like, I love how stubborn she is. I think it'll serve her well at some point in time. Yeah. But I have to stop myself and sit with that pain of, like, oh, we're gonna sit here until you can get up. Like, this is, you have to, like, if you want to be good at this, you got to learn. So it is just like it's hard to let people learn their lessons.
To patiently parent like that. While they're freaking out.
And watch them suffer for a little bit. Yes. I think that's the hard part, is because my heart always hurts, but it's like, no, this is for her greater good. Let her sit with it.
Yeah, I think with my kids, I really try and spend a lot of time within the parenting approach in reframing. Of, like, they'll tell me a situation with friends. I'm like, oh, well, did you think about this? It's like helping them, like, because knowing when you're immature, your mind, everything is very my fault. You want to take the blame. You think it's you. They don't like you because it's you. It's like you assume it's all your fault. And so I've been trying to do a lot of work of reframing with them and talking it out, even with like friend scenarios of like, well, maybe this has nothing to do with you. Maybe they're going through something weird. It's like helping them consider another option.
Yeah.
It just takes so much time and it's a lot of conversation. But I feel like even when I'm trying to get them to correct a behavior or commit to doing a new habit, it's like I want to thoroughly explain the why, because I trust that they're smart, and if they see it's in their own good, that they should want to naturally do that. But it just takes time, and I'm willing to put in the time, because it'll in the long run it'll be great. But I think for me, it's like I don't let the little mishaps or things they're not doing affect me, because I know it's not personal. I'm with their kids, they're distracted, whatever. It's not a personal attack on me, and they're all of a sudden they don't respect me. It's like, okay, no, but what does this mean? They must not value the order I'm giving them, or they're not valuing the advice I'm giving them. So let's go back into there and explain it, because I know once they get it, they'll want what's best for them.
Yeah.
But it takes thought, effort, talk.
Consistency.
And it's funny because now, and I'll usually try to talk to both of them before bed, and we'll go through the day and like talk about things. And at first my son, he was just really quiet, like, that's fine, I'm fine. He just wouldn't talk. And now that I've provided this space and I've consistently showed up, it's like he'll be waiting to tell me something or talk about this girl or what do you think's going on. And I love like that new connection, that new vulnerability that I'm building with him, and that I'm giving him a space to share his feelings, and he's not like scared of them or overwhelmed by them. It's like, no, let's hash this out. This is what I think. What do you think? I don't know. I just feel like this morning though, my daughter, it was 36 degrees, right? When we were leaving the house to go to school. She had this cute sweater shirt on, but it's very thin, and pants and shoes. And I was like, okay, hey, go grab a jacket. And she was like, she was so upset because it would ruin her outfit. It would ruin the look, the vibe. And we get in the car. She has her jacket on, it's zipped up, and she reluctantly got it because she was so mad I made her get a jacket. I'm just the worst. And she's in the car and she's like, she's like, keeps making these breaths, and she's like tugging at her neck. Like her jacket is the most uncomfortable thing in the freaking world. And I just look over at her, and she knows better than to try to complain to me or be like, Mom, do I have to wear this? So she's looking at me just like huffing and puffing. I was like, girl, it will not hurt my feelings if you take that off. I am just trying to help you, and I want you to be warm today, and I don't want you to be like miserable, but stop the drama. Like this performance, take it off. Like I was just giving you advice. And it was interesting that once I said that, she realized what she was doing, what was going on. She stopped whining. She settled in, had the jacket on. It was fine. But she had to mentally get there and like let it be okay that she chose to change her outfit, and it wasn't just for me, it was for her best interest. But it took a minute. It was really annoying. But that's just a silly example. But
well, even like dinner, for example, like making dinner for the kids. Like we'll make dinner, and I have to stop myself from making them a separate dinner sometimes, because it's like part of me is like, okay, we're all eating. I'm like really strong, like, nope, this is dinner, this is what we're doing. And then they'll eat a little bit, they're like, I don't like this. I'm like, well, we're not eating anything after. And then when I can tell they haven't eaten anything, I'm like, well, they need to eat something.
They're skinny, they might die tonight.
They need nutrients. But it's like the more I fall into that trap, I'm just creating monsters for myself. I'm making 2 separate dinners. Like I'm doing snacks before bed. And it's like, that's terrible parenting. It's like, they're just pushing their boundaries. And I don't want kids that are picky eaters either. I'm like, this is dinner. We make good food. Like, this is it. And then even for snacks, I'm like, I'm not getting you snacks. We're not eating snacks. If there's an apple, you can have an apple. I mean, Sage doesn't have teeth, so I do have to cut it for her, but her front teeth are missing. It is hard for her to eat an apple. But it's like standing strong in those boundaries too, as a parent, is hard for me when I'm tired at the end of the day. I think that's where I really am like, I'm exhausted from saying no almost. And that's where I sometimes struggle with. It's like, I need to have enough energy in the tank to be able to, because it's confusing for them to hold the boundary and be comfortable in it. It's like, this is a good choice as a parent, like them not eating before bed, you know?
Kids are good at making you gaslight yourself, though, you know? Like their complaints, you're like, whoa, are you valid? Like, hold on, let me consider this. I didn't know you had all these feelings about this direction or whatever, but I think ultimately it is like trusting that initial intuition of like, this is important. This is why we have this rule. I need to keep holding on to that and not try to, change it. I think like you were saying, it's hard not to give myself concessions. Well, today was really hard.
We had a hard day.
Tired. I'll just pick everything up. It's okay. Like, I just need to get this over with. But I have to like catch myself. Like, no, there shouldn't be exceptions all the time. There's things we just have
and there's
to
not
do.
exceptions for you, right?
Yeah.
As a mom, it's like, as a parent, it's like, people don't care. Like, if we're late for your job. No, they don't care, but it's like, you're late for your job every day. It's like, oh, it's just so hard for me. Like, I couldn't.
It's like,
and you're late for that meeting. You're still not respecting that person's time.
Oh, Mom, you don't feel like making dinner today? Okay. And I still got to eat. It's like, it doesn't as an adult, sometimes it really doesn't matter.
I tell Kendall that too. Every morning, waking her up, it's a fight. I'm so tired. I tell her, I'm tired too. I had to wake up 30 minutes before you. And I had to wake up early just to make sure you get up.
Yeah.
And she's like, oh. I was like, I have to go to work, And I tell her, school, you're going to be in school for a long time. Right now, you're in elementary, there's junior high school, college. I said that you might as well get used to it. Yeah. And even when you go to work, it's basically like going to school. You're clocking in for these hours, And I tell you have to go to school to be able to pick the job that you want to make the money that you want. So you need to use this time to really be smart.
Yeah.
And figure out what it is that you want. Because, for me, I have to buy you all the things that you want, right? I got to go to work.
Yeah.
So I can't just stay home because I'm tired. And so when I put that way, she's like, okay.
Yeah.
No more stuff, no more plushies, what,
And showing up consistently, it's like, no, this is what we do. This is how, it's like that builds tough kids.
Discipline. I tell her, you got to do hard things.
And if you want a new cat toy, you got to get up for school every day.
Yeah.
No, I think with my kids too, I'm like, hey, school is your job. I love what I do, but sometimes I don't feel like going, but I still go because I want to live in this house and I want to do the fun things and have freedom to do what we want. It's like, sometimes you got to suck it up.
Yeah.
Well, and that's why I really like sports. Even I played soccer growing up, and I think I love soccer, especially because it's like a team sport. I really enjoy team sports. And I think that we're talking about masculine and feminine energy. I think it's like having a team-like mentality, like you're looking at that, I think is very feminine, right? But then you have, like, we all have this same goal of what we want as a team. And then we got to put in the work, not only as a team, but individually. What am I eating? How am I exercising? Am I fit enough to support my team? It's like, I think that builds confidence in a lot of ways for kids, but it teaches them how to exist in those different energies of like showing up for your team or yourself, and knowing when to push and when to not.
Yeah.
Well, it's funny because Sawyer this morning, actually, which is ironic because the podcast topic, she asked me like, Mom, were you more of like a tomboy or like a girly girl? Because she was like kind of trying to place herself to like, what am I? And I was like, babe, I was always a little bit of both.
Yeah.
I'm like, I liked getting dirty and playing sports and roughing with the boys, but I also liked makeup and dresses and doing my hair. It's like, you can be both.
Yeah.
I was like, I think you are both. Like, in my opinion, I feel like you kind of carry both. She's
baddie.
Like, yeah, me too. I'm like, you're a baddie. You get to be all of it. That's great. But it's just interesting, even her at 9. Like, where do I fit in? Where am I more masculine or am I more feminine?
Am I a girl or a tomboy?
You're both.
Yeah.
It's like, you are all of it. Like, let that be.
Well, and that's where I kind of like the whole movement of like, the non-binary stuff, however you feel about it. But I do feel like it allows this like space for people to exist in the energy that they feel comfortable.
It allows gender to be on a spectrum and not like concrete.
Yeah.
And the ways we think about gender, of how kind of silly some of those things are, of like, if you play sports, you're more masculine, when it's like, no, you just enjoy sports. Like cool. Because we kind of have both of the energies in all of it.
Well, and why do only one gender get to like a certain thing?
Yes.
Yeah.
Like, that's silly.
Or have a competitive nature.
Like, Jude can like dinosaurs. It's like that kind of thing. It's like, people are into what they're into.
Yeah.
Exactly.
We didn't end it on a political note.
Well, I think I'm actually surprised we were able to talk about it because I was not sure what I was going to say about it. But I do think it's kind of existing in those energies. We both have them, men and women. I think we both have feminine, masculine, and it's like finding ways where we feel comfortable existing. I think it's to each person. So.
Well, and I get how people want to label certain traits effeminate or masculine. I think it helps people kind of understand from like their history and what they've seen, like stereotypes or whatever. This is what women do. But I don't like that it's such a stark contrast of name. It's almost like, why can't we say soft and hard characteristics or giving and receiving characteristics or something? I wish it was different, because I think the name in and of itself also makes it very confusing.
Yeah.
In a way.
Labels are confusing.
Because it forces you to feel like you need to fit into that.
Well, and I feel like nowadays traditional roles are so much different. You know, there are more independent males and females that can work and, you know, cook and clean and be organized. You know, they can be assertive, but also emotionally intelligent. So I just feel like we need to normalize, like, everyone should have a balance of the two.
Yeah.
You shouldn't be labeled as one more than the other.
I think we need to normalize and expect, you know, like allow people to feel that expectation, like you're going to hold both. Like even for men, I feel like they shy away from vulnerability or showing their effeminate side or their ability to receive because they haven't been told they're allowed to.
Yeah.
I think that we're doing everyone a disservice and society at large a disservice by not just honoring that full spectrum of who we are. We only want to put a certain aspect forward and show this facade because that's going to be accepted by the community or society. And it's like such a weird game. Like, why do we need to do all this?
Yeah, and I think misogyny is hurtful to men too.
Yes.
And I think it's like, you know, we can exist in our femininity. I think it's beautiful, but I think the more we kind of separate those, it's like, it's actually hurtful to men and women when we don't kind of see that we both exist and they're both equally important.
Or if you pedestal a certain role and not another. It's like,
I think the more I heal my own femininity too, like I allow my partner to heal his, you know, what his things too. It's like, I really have to heal those parts of me so I can allow my kids to flourish into whoever they want to be.
100%.
Hopefully just themselves.
And expressing emotion and having emotion doesn't mean you're a weak bitch. It doesn't mean that. And I think in my head, I need to continue to dive into that. I don't think that's what it means anymore, but I think at different points in my life, I have felt like...
Oh, it rears its head every now and again for me, for sure.
Yeah. The vulnerability is a strength.
It is, and it takes a lot of confidence and courage to do that.
Yeah. And we don't give enough credit for that, male or female.
Yeah, for sure. Well, kumbaya. Love that. Well, all right. Good episode, guys. Bye.
See you guys next time.
Thank you for joining us on another enlightening episode of the Awaken Your Ego podcast. We hope our discussions have inspired you to explore new dimensions of health and wellness.
If you enjoyed today's episode, don't forget to subscribe, rate, and leave a review. Your feedback fuels our mission to empower individuals on their path to optimal well-being.
Stay tuned for more insightful conversations, and until next time, may you continue to awaken your ego and embrace the extraordinary potential within.
Take care, be well, and remember, your journey matters.